If fame is the goal, I get a little bit of fame, and all it does is that it's a goalpost that keeps moving. You never get enough of it. But service is one that it's like, if I'm changing one life, then it's enough. And if I'm changing a million lives, I'm still powerfully inspired to do more. And that's where the magic is. That's where the juice is. That's where the power is. And we just don't have enough people in the world talking about it and chasing it and celebrating service. They're celebrating all the other things, fame and vanity and metrics and money, and all those things can be good, but they should be subservient to service. There are people who say, I want more money, but it's subservient to the mission. I want more income, but it is subservient to impact. I want more revenue, but it is subservient to reputation. That's what makes a mission-driven messenger a mission-driven messenger.
Wow. I love this reframe. It is so refreshing. That's why we're here having these conversations to talk about the thing that nobody's talking about. And this piece around service, it's just in the personal evolution and growth journey, is that there comes a point in every entrepreneur's lives, unless they just start off with service, in which case, great, where it's like me, 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 me. And then it's like, there's only so much more money and like more followers in this, and people get stuck. And a lot of people just kind of like just
Totally.
stay stuck, or a lot of people just keep on, spinning in the hamster wheel for decades, unfortunately. But then at a certain point, hopefully before we die, and hopefully very soon in our career, we get to see that there has to be a point where it switches from me to we. Otherwise, it's just like this endless cycle of doing more, and it just never ends.
Welcome to It's Not What You Think, the podcast that takes you on a transformative journey to rewrite your story of greatness and reawaken your soul's purpose. I'm your host, Celine DaCosta, a subconscious mind expert, master coach, and believer in the limitless power and magic that lives within all of us. My intention in this podcast is to propel you into your next level of success so that you are free to create the life that your heart most desires. Through deep, actionable insights, personal stories, and world-class guests, I'll provide you with the tools, strategies, and resources you need to unlock the fullest expression of who you're meant to be in this lifetime, so that you can consciously design a reality that is beyond what you could have ever dreamed of. Join me on this journey to personal growth and evolution, and let's live our lives in accordance with our highest soul's calling. This podcast is your weekly check-in to help this path become more simple, obtainable, and fun. Thank you for tuning in today, and now let's dive in.
Hello, soul family, and welcome back to today's podcast. So today I'm joined by a dear friend who also happens to be a powerful name in the game when it comes to all things personal branding, putting yourself out there, and having a true lasting impact and influence on the people that you're here to serve. So Rory, before I dive into how I met you and why you're here, welcome.
Thank you, Celine. I'm so excited to be here. You are so cool, and you're one of the very first people we met when we started our new company. And I've just always really admired you and appreciated your energy and your generosity and your passion for helping people. And, just the genuine authenticity in every encounter I have with you over email or in a conversation. So I'm genuinely excited to be here.
Well, the feeling is mutual. So for those of you who are listening, quick story on how I met Rory. Well, first of all, Rory he's a really impressive human being, but I'll give you his credentials. But as you'll see in today's episode, that's not even like the fraction of what makes him so cool and amazing. So Rory is a New York Times bestselling author of the book Take the Stairs. He's an 8-figure entrepreneur and the youngest person in history to be inducted into the Professional Speaking Hall of Fame. And the way that I met Rory was through friends. Once upon a time, I was asked to interview and to select and interview people who are really making a true impact in the industry for a Forbes article. And through the grapevine, I started to do my little detective work, and name came up. And so I connected with him. And the moment I had a conversation with him, I was like, okay, we need to talk. I want to interview you. Let me get into your brain. As you guys know, I love getting into people's brains. It's one of my pastime activities. And so we connected. I got to learn more about Rory's story. I was actually on Rory's podcast a while back. And now that I have my own podcast, he was one of the first people that I wanted to invite in to share his wisdom with us today. So, Rory, before we dive into the questions, I would love to hand over the mic to you. And can you share more about what you do, what you're most passionate about right now? And yeah, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm the co-founder of Brand Builders Group. That's our company. And my wife is actually my business partner. She is actually the CEO, and I operate more like the CMO. We have about 45 employees, and we are a personal brand strategy firm. So we help mission-driven messengers of all basically experts, entrepreneurs, executives, and we teach them how to build and monetize their personal brand to become more wealthy and well-known, but more by focusing on making a difference in the world and not just making a dollar. And we've worked with several of the biggest personal brands in the world, our private clients of ours. This would be people like Lewis Howes, Amy Porterfield, Jasmine Starr, Ed Milet, John Maxwell, Eric Thomas, E.T. the hip hop preacher, Natalie Ellis from Boss Babe. I mean, Trent Shelton, these amazing, amazing humans. And we've been a part of their journey, and worked, really, really closely with several of them. But most of the people that we work with are not them. And Lewis Howes was our first client that we started working with in 2018. And so we were a really big part of his journey. But most of the people we work with are just people who want to make the world a better place. And they know that they do that through sharing their heart as an individual person. And so we give them strategies for how to clarify exactly what it is that is on their heart to share. And then we help them kind of codify it into a set of frameworks and content. And then we put structure behind it to help them, turn it into a business and generate leads and create income and change lives. So that's the gist of what we do.
So basically, if you're listening to this episode, you're going to want to really listen in, because chances are you are a mission-driven entrepreneur and you are desiring to make a big difference and an impact on the world. So let's unpack this whole personal branding thing, because Rory, I know some people are like, "Ooh, personal branding, I really want one." And some people are like, freeze, I don't know what to do. Like, can't breathe.
Yeah,
So let's really demystify this today. Yeah. Well, before we
totally.
dive into this one, let's just start with let's define personal branding in the context of this conversation. What is it? What does it mean?
Yeah, that's such a great place to start, because some people hear the term personal branding and they go, like puke, like I'm not going to be like the guy sitting on my Lamborghini, or, the whatever picture they have of what it means to be a personal brand. And I think it's really important to define what personal branding is not, right? It's not what a lot of people think. It's not social media. It's not being a YouTuber. It's not having a podcast. It's not your logo. It's not your colors. It's not your fonts. It's not what email system you use. It's not any of those things that people, their brain, for some reason, when they hear personal brand, tends to go to like, oh, it's websites. The way that we define it is that personal branding is simply the digitization of your reputation.
Hmm.
And so really, personal branding, at least in the way that we talk about it, is not new at all. It's an old concept. It's an ageless, it's a timeless concept, which is reputation. It's about what do people think of when they think of you? How much do they trust you? What are you known for? Who respects you? What problems can you solve in the world? and it's about who you are as a human. And then the personal branding part is just amplifying that. It's presenting it and then amplifying that in a digital way. But we tend to purposefully defy and move away from a lot of the kind of rules that online people teach. And we deliberately go, no, we're going to do the same thing you would do in real life, in a real conversation with real humans, and we're just gonna digitize it so that it can scale. But we're not going to do the things where we lie to people and mislead people and use fake, countdown timers and fake chat bots, and make it look like someone's there when they're really not. I guess in a way, I would say, so that's what personal branding is. And I think the goal, as we define it, I mean, first of all, the goal is impact, but from a business perspective, our goal is to automate trust at scale.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Automate trust at scale. I freaking love that. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit more because, one of the things I want to speak into one of the patterns I've noticed, as you know, and people who are listening may or may not know, one of my zones of genius is helping people pull
Mm-hmm.
out their brand story, that authentic story that really makes them relatable, connectable, and speaks to people's hearts, right? And so I have been in these years, like, we're also working with people to really help them develop their personal brand, albeit at a more niched angle. And one of the things that I've noticed is a pattern I want to speak into, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is there comes a point, because the way you're explaining it, it's so clear. It's like who you are. Let's digitize your reputation. Let's make it bigger. Like, that's like, yeah, that feels really good. What I've noticed is people having these belief systems thinking that, oh, I need to build a personal brand, and therefore I need to create a persona that is going to be palatable, that like will sell. And where I've noticed people betray themselves, which is a lot of the work that I do in the back end, in the internal story, is that they will create almost like I will see like a schism. Like, well, they'll kind of like split themselves and then create, it's who you are behind closed doors. And then there's who you are presenting to the world. And then what happens is that as you grow and you're applying the effective strategies, but you're not really doing the inner work, then it's like you're getting more followers and you're making more money, and the snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where people feel so disconnected and like they're so inauthentic, that they have to like keep this charade going on, but they feel like completely on the inside, they're like, this isn't who I am, and then it just creates this like prison. So I've noticed that happen again and again and again and again. And I'm really curious, because I see you nodding your head. I'm guessing you've seen it as well. If you can speak into this, like what you see, why you think this is happening, and basically how to not do that. I can speak from it in the philosophical and internal inner work, personal development level, but I'd love to hear your perspective from your angle of where you sit.
Yeah. Well, I think there's at least two big reasons why you don't want to pretend to be someone different online than you are offline. Because the first reason is because, let's say it works, right? Let's say you create a persona and you create a character that the whole world falls in love with, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. What ends up happening is people end up loving your character and not loving you. They love the thing they want you to be, not the thing that you are. And this creates a huge amount of dissatisfaction and sadness in the life of that person. This is why a lot of celebrities, I think, end up committing suicide. Is it's like people fall in love with their character, but they don't even know who the person really is. And then there's so much pressure to be the thing that everybody wants you to be. You never get to be yourself. And so you basically kill that opportunity to get to be that, or you end up letting a whole bunch of people down. So it just creates a massive amount of pressure and dissonance in your own life, in your own heart. And, it's almost like this monster that you create, and then it has to be fed so much that, it's terrible. It takes over, because you go, well, now my money is my family's security, my livelihood is all dependent on me perpetuating this thing that I created. So that's a problem. The other reason why it's not a good idea is because there's a high likelihood that if you try to create a character that everyone would fall in love with, they won't, and it won't be successful. It'll be a horrible, massive failure. And that the shortest path to creating a brand that breaks through the wall, becomes well known, becomes wealthy, but most of all, makes an actual impact in the world, the shortest path to doing that is by revealing more of who you really are for the world to see. People don't actually want perfection. What they want is authenticity. What they want is connection. They trust somebody who they feel like understands them and that they can understand. And that's the human experience. And it's fascinating because everything with AI right now is exploding. We're doing a lot with AI because AI can help with a lot of the mundane parts of building a personal brand. But I actually think the more the world goes towards AI, the more important and more powerful and more strategically advantaged it will be to lean into the human elements and the emotions that are generated from being yourself and allowing people to see your fears and your mistakes and also your successes. And so you're more likely to succeed by that. And I'll share one last thing here real quick. The single best piece of personal branding advice that I've ever heard, Celine, and this is not a Rory Vaden quote. I wish it was. This is not a Brand Builders quote, but this is from a gentleman named Larry Winget. And I heard Larry say this. I started building, my personal brand as a formal thing, when I was 17 years old. I started speaking in high schools. And Larry said, the goal is to find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. Find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. And the moment I heard him say that, I knew he was right. I was like, that's it. Like, that is the epicenter of not just a great business model and not just a great personal brand strategy, but that is the bullseye of the purpose of our life, is to go, how can my life be valuable to others? How can my expertise be useful to other people? How can the things that I've done and experienced improve the lives of other humans? It not only makes money, it not only gives me clarity as a strategy, it gives me purpose as a person. And that's what it's all about.
Wow. That quote alone, I feel like could completely change the game. I mean, we're only 15 minutes in, but like, just anyone who's listening to this, I'm sure is like, boom. Like, even I've been in this industry for 8 years. And it's like, I had not heard that one, but it gave me chills. So, I'm curious about, in your opinion, why do people get themselves in this situation where they start to not be themselves? Like this situation that we're describing, it happens a lot. And I think that's why a lot of people have the personal branding like reaction, is because it's actually what I have found, and hopefully we get to change that. But I found that it's harder to find people who are like authentically being themselves as a personal brand than it is finding people who are being someone they're not. So I'm just curious about your thoughts on why are people doing this? Because no one's doing it on purpose. Like, what's getting them in this pickle in the first place, where they're having this disconnect between who they really are authentically and what they're presenting out to the world?
For sure. The number one reason why people start pretending to be someone else or think they have to be someone else to be successful with their personal brand is because of a subconscious thing that's going on, which is comparison. They're comparing themselves to other people, right? They're looking at Gary Vaynerchuk and they're going, oh, look how successful he is. I should do what he does. And Gary talks about all of these different topics, right? He talks about, wine and music and sports and entertainment and Web3 and social media and business. Or they look at, what The Rock is doing and they go, oh man, The Rock has all these different, revenue streams. Like he's an actor and he's a comedian, and now he's got his own clothing line, and he's got his own, line of skincare now, and tequila and all of these different things. And they go, oh, I should have multiple streams of income like The Rock or whatever, right? They look at other people and they go, gosh, I should be further ahead. Therefore, I should be doing what those people are doing. And what they don't realize is going, well, there's two mistakes here. One, if you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. And that's the number one reason why personal brands fail. I actually don't think the number one reason they fail is because of inauthenticity. It's because they're talking about too many topics to too many audiences on too many platforms, trying to have too many different revenue streams, and they have a very small team, and they bounce off the wall because they're pulled in 1,000 directions, and there's no way they can do all of those things as a small business owner. But the reason that they're doing that is, and which is part of the inauthenticity, is they think they're supposed to, because they're looking at other people who are more famous or, quote unquote, more successful, and they think they have to be those people. Mm-hmm. And we describe this, Celine, as Sheehan's wall. So I named this concept after Peter Sheehan, who taught it to me, and he taught it in a more corporate environment, but we've applied it to personal brands. And so we named it after him. And that basically there's two groups of people in the world. There are those who are unknown, right? They're living in obscurity. They're not typically, they probably don't have a lot of followers. They're not super wealthy. They're not super well known. And then there are those who are well known, right? So there's the unknown, and then there's the well known. These are the people that have a lot of notoriety. This is Brene Brown, and it's Mel Robbins, and it's Oprah, and it's people like that. Well, in between these two groups is this huge invisible wall that we call Sheehan's wall. And what most of us who are unknown are doing is we look at the people who are well known and we go, oh, I look how far they are. They're so far ahead of me, so I should do what they do. And so we go, well, Tony Robbins has lots of different topics, and they've got, Oprah has all of these different, things that she's doing. And so we try to emulate that. And what happens is we bounce off the wall, because when you have diluted focus, you get diluted results. You're doing too many things. And what we don't realize is that all of those people, they broke through the wall by doing one thing really, really well. And if you actually think about this metaphor as like an actual concrete wall, right? So if there's like a concrete wall, let's say I have a sledgehammer, right? And I'm swinging, I'm hitting all of these different spots on the wall. Nothing is going to happen to that wall. I'm just going to expend a lot of energy, get very tired. And even if I work harder, I'm not making any progress. I'm just bouncing off the wall. And that's exactly what happens when we have lots of topics. We're on lots of platforms, trying to have lots of different revenue streams. We're bouncing off the wall. But if you were to hit that wall in the same spot over and over and over and over, what would happen is eventually the paint would chip, and then the wall would crack, and then there would be a divot. And then if you keep hitting it again and again and again in the same spot, a hole would break open. And then once that little tiny hole breaks open, you can reach through and pull the entire wall down. And that's what all of these people who are well known have done. And if you stop for a second, and instead of looking at what they're doing now, if you study not what they're doing now, but if you're studying what they did when they got there, all of them had tremendous laser focus on one thing. The Rock broke through the wall as a wrestler. Yes, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about 1,000 topics today, but in the beginning, he talked about one thing that he was passionate about, wine, and he only did it on one platform, YouTube, right? Oprah was a reporter, and then then an anchor, and then a host. She did one thing. Brene Brown was a researcher who studied one topic, shame, and that's all she did for 20 years was just study this one thing. So that is how you break through the wall. But and those are people who didn't, they weren't, it wasn't contrived, right? They were
Right.
leaning into the direction that they felt called. They went all in on the one thing, and then they broke through the wall. And then once you break through the wall, you can expand. You have more money, you have more team, you have more time, you have more technology. Then you can do lots of things. But they broke through the wall by really becoming the expert and leaning into the calling on their life. And
Mhm.
that is the incongruency that we don't realize as we go, oh, I think I should do all the things because that's what those people are doing. But in reality, we should do the thing that we feel called to do, because the thing you were called to do is likely, I mean, for me, I'm very spiritual, right? Like I'm a hardcore Bible thumping Jesus freak. But so I think of it as the calling on your heart is there because that's the thing that God created you to respond to. And when you
Mhm.
lean into that, your uniqueness comes alive and you flourish and create momentum. But when you compare yourself to others, then you start chasing all the things that they're doing, and you can't do it as well because it's not the unique, it's not the divine design of your personal humanity. And that's where it breaks down. And they, instead of breaking through the wall, they bounce off the wall and they actually become part of the noise they're trying to escape. They
Right.
contribute to the gigantic sea of just ambiguous mess and noise and volume that everyone's trying to break away from. And it's because we're all comparing ourselves and chasing a whole bunch of things, doing what we think we're supposed to, instead of leaning into the thing that we're called to.
Mhm. This is such a beautiful answer. Thank you so much. And what I really appreciate about your answer is that it's equal parts personal growth and like the journey of becoming a better version of yourself and listening to your heart and your guidance. And also equal parts strategy, because a lot of what you're saying is like straight up, like focus on one thing, laser focus,
Totally.
go do it. You know what I mean? So that's what I really love about that. And I want to take us deeper because this is such a potent answer. And I can feel there's like an even juicier underbelly to this. So, what I have found in my experience of coaching clients and really getting like super deep into people's inner world is when it comes to identifying like that unique thing that you are, that only you can do uniquely. It's such like a clear thing to say, and in practice, a lot of people really struggle with this because
Mm-hmm.
it takes a certain level of knowing yourself. It takes a certain level of having the courage, the clarity, and also just the wherewithal to be able to look at and claim what it is that you're really unique at. And something that I can speak to this from my own personal experience as well as that of my clients and friends, colleagues. Just I've seen, one of my things, one of my superpowers is pattern recognition and just noticing like
Mm.
where are those collective patterns playing out and holding us back. And I noticed is that even when you like go into this journey of what is my that one thing, that unique thing, or my purpose, or however we want to call it, that one thing. Um, it's scary to get in there, Rory. And not only that, what I've noticed is even if you do identify it, there's like this terror and this fear to actually claim it because no one else is doing it. To actually say this is my thing, and then you putting it out there, and it's just like I see like the trembling of like, but nobody's talking about this. And the greatest irony of this entire thing is that we know that these people that you're speaking into that they're claiming this one thing is because they're taking their unique zone of genius and what makes them so unique. And then they're laser focusing on it and they're concentrating on it. But the step before that, the step in between, here's what my thing is, and I'm going to laser focus it and go, is actually the courage to say, I'm going to, like, Brene Brown, she's got to be like, I'm going to just go all in on talking about shame and vulnerability. Like I'm just going to go out there, even though nobody's talking about it. And then they'll think I'm crazy or they won't listen. And then there's all these like belief systems. And so I'd love for you to speak into this tender space of, okay, it's hard enough to just find the thing. And then it's like a challenge to just focus on it and not get all over the place, which is the strategic piece. But what about in between where you're like, I'm a pioneer. Am I a pioneer or am I crazy? Am I a pioneer or am I crazy? You know what I mean? That like really crunchy spot. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, totally. So there's two conversations going on here. One is, why do people struggle to figure out what is their thing? And we can talk about that in a moment. There's a very simple reason why that's profound. But I think the question you're asking right now is, how do we get past the fear, right? Like, how do we have more courage? And I want to answer this in a way that might be different than what people expect.
Good. That's why we're here.
Whenever we talk about fear and how to overcome fear, everyone thinks that the answer is courage. And you hear things like, feel the fear and do it anyways. Or, I even wrote, there's a thing that goes around the internet called "Do It Scared." I actually wrote that in my book, Take the Stairs, way back in 2012. And so I believe in a lot of that. But I believe now that the real antidote to fear is not courage, it's service. See, fear is an entirely self-centered concept. We feel fear when we're thinking about ourselves, right? It could be like physical fear, like, oh, is something going to happen to me? Like there's a house fire or somebody, I'm in a dark alley and somebody's walking down and I feel fear, right? That's healthy fear. But we also feel it in very shallow ways, like, oh my gosh, I can't hit record on the camera because, gosh, what if people think I look funny? Or what if something's in my teeth? Or what if people don't like what I say? Or what if, what if my hair is messed up? Or like, what if I fumble around, right? Fear is a self-centered concept. In certain ways in our life, it's very healthy. It's meant to protect us. And, but there is no fear once the mission to serve becomes clear. If I'm walking down the road and I see a car accident and a car flips over and someone is trapped and they're yelling for help, I go running over to help that person. Suddenly, I'm not thinking about, does my breath stink? Right? Do these pants make my butt look big? Like, am I qualified to help this person? No, you don't. All of that, because you're going to help somebody. And this is when humans are at their highest. It is when they are helping. Your highest self is to be your highest value to others. And the moment that I switch from self-centered success achieving to service-centered helping, the fear disappears, because it's no longer about me. It's about helping another person. And so it's not mustering up the courage. It's centering ourselves in service. And I think this is what makes, I think, people think of firefighters and first responders as so courageous, and clearly they are. But what I think makes them magical is not that they have extraordinary courage to just not listen to the fear. It's that they have a relentless dedication and pursuit to helping others. And so it's the fear steps aside because they have said, I am someone who's going to lay down my life if necessary to help others. And that's what makes them extraordinary. But that's a tactic that we can all apply in our lives, but personal brands must apply it. Because if you don't, you will stay stuck in procrastination forever. You will constantly find excuses to go, oh, my course isn't good enough yet to release it to the world, or I'm not yet qualified enough. And this ties into why people struggle finding what their uniqueness is. But on your specific moment, your specific question of the specific issue of fear, which is really a huge part of it, right? Like we like to think we have great tactics. We do have great tactics, but it's all worthless if someone can't overcome their fear. And I've realized, and I think our team has figured out, that there's only so much we can do to motivate someone and provide external motivation to like try to pump people up to do something. The real magic happens when they are focused on service. And this is amazing. I have several of my private clients now, like our company does one-on-one coaching, that's what we do. But, and I still have some private clients. Most of my private clients are like billionaires. They're pretty wealthy people. And, when I look at Ed Milet as an example, if you don't know Ed, he's somebody that is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, has one of the biggest podcasts in the world. He became a client because we were helping him with his book launch. We actually helped him pre-sell over 100,000 copies of his books. We actually sold 35,634 books on one day with Ed. It was a very epic thing because of how much trust he had banked up in all of who he was, his reputation. But Ed is not building his personal brand because he needs more money. He's not building his personal brand because he needs more notoriety or fame. If those were the drivers, he would have stopped a long time ago. He flew past all of that. And yet he still works extremely hard. Extremely hard. Why? Because he wants to make people's lives better. He genuinely cares about that. He doesn't need more social media followers, more Amazon reviews, like more email subscribers. He needs the feeling of going, I'm helping more and more people. It is both an immediate service, provides an immediate sense of deep satisfaction, that where we are deeply satisfied in the moment, and also an insatiable desire simultaneously to have more, to serve more people. It's like you're both deeply satisfied with changing one life and yet addicted to reaching and helping more people at the same time. Whereas like money is not that way. Money is a finish line that keeps moving. If money is the goal, I always need more money and the goalpost keeps moving. If fame is the goal, I get a little bit of fame and all it does is that it's a goalpost that keeps moving. You never get enough of it. But service is one that it's like, if I'm changing one life, then it's enough. And if I'm changing 1 million lives, I'm still powerfully inspired to do more. And that's where the magic is. That's where the juice is. That's where the power is. And we just don't have enough people in the world talking about it and chasing it and celebrating service. They're celebrating all the other things, fame and vanity and metrics and money, and all those things can be good, but they should be subservient to service. And the people that we work with are true mission-driven messengers. They're people who say, I want more money, but it's subservient to the mission. I want more income, but it is subservient to impact. I want more revenue, but it is subservient to reputation. That's what makes a mission-driven messenger a mission-driven messenger.
Hello, Soul Family. I hope you're loving this episode so far. Before we dive back in, I'd love to share with you one of my most popular and beloved free resources on how to stand out and magnetize your dream clients with your irresistible story. Because here's the thing, you have a powerful story inside of you. There's no doubt about that. But the question is, are you telling it in a way that empowers you? And not only that, that connects with and compels your audience. Whether you are a business owner or a leader who's in charge of influencing others, this masterclass will propel you in the direction of becoming someone who tells compelling stories that change people's lives, starting with your own. This is the secret sauce to standing out in a crowd of sameness and being seen as a go-to expert. Because here's the truth. If you don't own your story, it will own you. So if you're ready to step into your truth and tell your story unapologetically and confidently without the wobbles, start here. Go to the show notes or type in the link, celinedacosta.com/free masterclass to dive in. Enjoy. And now let's get back into the episode.
Wow. I love this reframe. It is so refreshing. And again, like, that's why we're here having these conversations to talk about the thing that nobody's talking about. And this piece around service, I think it's also like one of my observations is just in the personal evolution and growth journey is that there comes a point in every entrepreneur's lives, unless they just start off with service, in which case, great, where it's like me, 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 me. And then it's like, there's only so much more money and like more followers in this, and people get stuck. And a lot of people just kind of like just
Totally.
stay stuck, or a lot of people just keep on, spinning in the hamster wheel for decades, unfortunately. But then at a certain point, hopefully before we die, and hopefully very soon in our career, we get to see that there has to be a point where it switches from me to we. Otherwise, it's just like this endless cycle of just doing more, 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 and it just never ends. And I'm so happy that you're speaking into this. And
Well, if I can, so one thing on there, you touch on something really important. You say at some point people should make that shift. For most people, it's like at the very end of their life, the very late stages. Or, if you're lucky, you do it somewhere in the middle. But what we believe is that is actually the starting point of building a true personal brand. And this goes into what I was saying about why is it that people struggle to find their uniqueness? Why is it that they struggle to find their purpose? Why is it that they struggle to go, what is my one thing? And the answer is because they're asking the wrong question. The question that people are typically asking is, what is my uniqueness? What is my superpower? What could be my one thing? What would separate me from everybody else? They're asking what questions? And then there's some people who get to a level of asking why questions. I happen to be a huge Simon Sinek fan. I love Simon Sinek. I think he is I think he's one of the greatest leadership writers and speakers of our time. And Simon Sinek so famously wrote Start with Why. And he talked about how the best companies start with why. Well, as much as I love that and I believe that, and perhaps for companies, that's where they should start, is with why, I don't think that's the starting point for personal brands. Mm-hmm. Personal brands should not start with what. They should also not start with why. They should start with who. The shortest distance between where you are and finding your uniqueness is asking the question, who am I meant to serve? Who am I able to serve? For most of us, our why is a who. The reason why we work so hard is to take care of our kids or to take care of our grandma. The reason why we want to make money is because we want to give to those people who are in need. The reason why some scientists are relentless is because they're searching for a cure to help a person in their family or in their life who was affected by a situation, right? The reason that people go to Africa on missions trips is because they want to help a person. For most of us, our why is a who. And the sooner we can get clear on our who, not only the sooner we will find purpose, but the sooner we will find profit. Because when you're clear on who you are serving, once you're clear on who you are serving, every single other decision with your business becomes extremely clear. Like, if I know who I'm trying to reach, I know exactly what events I should speak at, what podcasts I should go on, what articles I should write, what topics I should cover, what kind of content I should produce, what type of offerings those people need help with. how much those people can afford, how to price it, how to structure it. Every downstream decision becomes clearer. But if you're not clear on your who, everything is sliding around. Because I'm like, well, am I talking to single moms, or am I talking to, like, whatever, some other demographic of going, like, well, if I'm talking to single moms, I can speak super powerfully to them, right? I was raised by a single mom. I know something about what their life looks like and what they're struggling with. But if I'm trying to also, like, help couples at the same time, those people hang out in different places. They have different issues. They have different challenges. They go to different conferences. Like, everything becomes fuzzy. And so you need to start with who. Now, the question becomes, who is your who? Who is the right who? How do I know which who I should focus on? And here's where I'm going to share with you our greatest secret. I will share with you the single greatest lesson that we've ever learned, the single greatest thing that we have ever uncovered. We did not learn this from somebody else. This is something that we developed, and we developed it through exactly what you said earlier, was pattern recognition. So we have a 2-day experience that we take people through to help them find their uniqueness. Well, once we had done this a few hundred times, and it was really when I was training our strategists, once we started hiring other people and going, here's how you take someone through this process, we realized there was this pattern that was occurring again and again, not 100% of the time, but like 98% of the time. And then we realized, oh, the reason that this pattern is emerging is because this is the divine design of our humanity. And so if I had to take our entire 2-day experience and give it to you in one sentence and go, here's the shortcut, right? If you're looking for the shortcut, you want the secret strategy, I'll give it to you right now for free. What we realized is that for all of us, for every single person on the planet, you are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. You are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. The shortcut to finding your who, the secret to finding your purpose, the shortest path to also making profit is to realize, how can I be most helpful? And to whom can I be most helpful? Well, I can be most helpful to the person who is going through now something that I have already been through. And so the questions that we ask are simple. We say, what setback have you survived? What challenge have you conquered? What obstacle have you overcome? What tragedy have you triumphed over? Whatever the answer is to that set of questions points us directly and succinctly and precisely to the unique power that each person has. It points us right to your uniqueness, to go, no one in the world is more powerfully positioned to serve that person than you. Not Tony Robbins, not Brene Brown, not the scientist, you. And what qualifies you is not your academic history. It's not the number of followers you have. It's not what media outlets you've been on. It's not what stages you've been on. It's not even the other clients that you've helped. It's the fact that you have walked down that path personally. And that is all that needs to be true for you to have supreme credibility in helping others. People don't need an expert. They just need help. They just need someone who can support them. And the way we find that is by simply realizing that you are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were.
That's a mic drop, Roy. This is so powerful. Thank you. And even when you were speaking, I was having my own flashbacks of like why I started to do this work and why I love this work. And then I'm just having flashbacks of people speaking to me, and it's like, oh my God, it makes so much sense. And I really want to land what you said home, and I'm going to put you on the hot seat, because one of the other things that I was very curious about as you were speaking is, now I want to know, what your unique ability is and what got you to the point where you can so clearly articulate this message to other people, because obviously, surprise, surprise, you had to walk down the path. So if we were to actually turn what you just said around and you're the guinea pig, can you tell us how that looked like for you, the discovery of that unique ability and the path you walked on that now you're perfectly positioned to help others on?
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about that. Now, this is, the whole story is a long story, so I won't be able to tell you the full story because, your uniqueness lives at the intersection of everything you've ever done and everything you feel called to be. That's where the uniqueness lives. And so there is a through line to every person's life. And that's what, when we work with, like when we take someone through the actual experience, the questions that we're asking that's what we're looking for, is what is that through line. Now, if you just point specifically at me and you go, wow, what is your uniqueness? And this explains, by the way, so Brand Builders Group, we started in 2018. We went from 0 to 8 figures in annual revenue. That's $10 million plus in revenue in less than 5 years, with no debt, no business partners, no investors, just me and my wife, and then our team, working through this. And that's what happens when you land on someone's uniqueness. You create natural momentum. You go, why are we so successful at this? Because we're teaching people to walk down the path that I walked. So in a word, the problem that we solve for the world is obscurity. Because when I was 17 years old, I watched a speaker come on stage and he blew my mind. And then when I was in my early 20s, I saw another speaker who changed my life. And I said, oh my gosh, one day I want to be that person. How do you get to be that person on the stage in front of thousands of people, like changing all these people's lives? And I had that thought very early in my life going, I want to be that person. And then one time I remember the first time, so to finish that story quick. So what happened was I heard about a contest called the World Championship of Public Speaking by Toastmasters International. And there's 90,000 people in this organization, and 25,000 of them compete to be in the top 10 speakers in the world. And I thought, wow, I was 22 years old, and I thought maybe if I won the World Championship of Public Speaking, maybe that would give me the credibility to do this as a career. And so I studied extremely hard. I got lots of coaching and mentorship, and I went out and I spoke 304 times for free in a period of 18 months. And I made it to the World Championship of Public Speaking. I was in the top 10 in the world out of 25,000 contestants, and I lost. But then the next year, I studied harder. I got more coaching. I read dozens of books. I watched thousands of hours of film. And that was the year that I made it all the way back to the World Championship. And that was the year that I lost again, actually, but I lost higher. I came in second. I was the world champion of public speaking, first runner up. And, and so that opened up. I started getting invitations to speak around the world to different groups. And then it was a couple years later, I walked into an airport bookstore. And, I remember walking up to the business section and going, how do you get I wonder what it takes to write a book, and how do you get your book in an airport, and how do you get that New York Times best-selling sticker on the cover? And that started me on a whole journey that went on for like another 6 years to figure that out. And then we released Take the Stairs when I was 29, and we hit #1 on the Wall Street Journal and #2 on the New York Times bestseller list. We have helped 8 of our clients in the last 12 months to become New York Times bestselling authors. We've helped 6 of our clients write, build content and create speeches that have become TED Talks that have gone viral with over 1 million views. We have several of our clients that have earned over $1 million in revenue from coaching and consulting, because we then built a coaching company to 8 figures that we sold, right? So we've done coaching, we've done consulting, we've done public seminars, we've obviously launched books. And so we're teaching people how to do all the things that when I was 17 and I was 20 and I was broke as a joke and I had no clue. And I was like, how come there's no class that you can take that teaches you how to build a speaking business? How come there's no class that's really any good on how to be a master platform presenter? How come nobody shows you what it takes to hit the New York Times bestseller list and has a plan for how to do it? And then I got a traditional publishing deal, and I was like, the publishers don't have a clue on how to sell books. No offense to them, but publishers don't sell books. They make them. And everyone thinks that they know something about selling them, and they don't. And that's not really what their role is. And so it's like writers write, editors edit, publishers publish, distributors distribute, retailers retail, but nobody knows how to sell the book. And so then the author has to figure out how to sell the book, but like nobody has a plan for how to actually sell it. And they think it's social media and PR. And social media and PR sell very little books, like almost 0 books, but that's where they spend all their time and their money. And so we figured all this stuff out, right? And I met my wife, AJ, when I was 23, and we built all these companies together as business partners. We started as business partners first, and then we fell in love and got married. And so we help people who are stuck in obscurity. And and what does that mean? To when you are in obscurity, it means you're unclear, you're unknown, right? That's what obscurity means, to be unclear, untrusted, and unknown. And what do we teach them how to do? We teach them how to become wealthy and well-known. How do we do that? The vehicle is personal branding, and our message is service. Our secret sauce is serve the person, teach everything you know to the person you once were. That's our whole system. Like we actually have 14 different 2-day experiences on all different topics, like, social media and podcasting and copywriting and funnels and automation and, selling from stage and getting booked to speak at speaking. Like we have all these different things in our curriculum, but if you took it all and boiled it down to one sentence, it's teach what you know to the person you once were. So we know exactly what problem we solve in one word. We can teach people exactly how to become wealthy and well-known in one sentence. Teach what you know to the person you once were. But then we have 14 different 2-day experiences to help people actually do that. But it's that precision, that clarity to go, what are we best suited to help people do? Because I was raised by a single mom who had no money, and I had to get a full scholarship to go to college. And then it was like, I had to fund my own business, and I didn't have a national TV show, and I didn't have a publicist, and I couldn't pay someone to book me for speaking engagements. And so my wife, AJ, and I and our team figured that all out. And we've turned it into 2 different 8-figure businesses, 5 different 7-figure businesses. We've now helped all these other clients do it. Why? It's the only thing we've ever spent time doing, right? The reason it's clear is this is what we do. It's the only thing we do. It's the only thing that we're really equipped to do in a really deep way, because it's the only thing that we've done. And so I think a lot of the reason why people get a distaste for personal brands is because people are trying to make money teaching people how to do things they've never done themselves. And they're trying to pretend like they're successful when they're really not, right? I mean, so many people are renting airplanes and renting Lamborghinis to do photo shoots and turn it in. Come on, that's not real. That's fake. Like, and you don't have to do that, right? I don't mean to even judge those people. I'm just saying those people would be much better off teaching people to actually do the things that they've actually done in their own life. It would be much more authentic, and they'd have much more success doing it. And it'd be much more natural and sustainable and long lasting. And so, Larry Winget gave us that secret early on: find your uniqueness and exploit it in the service of others. But he never created a system for how to do it. He never created a process that you could go through. He said that, and it was so brilliant and profound. And then when we, frankly, when we sold our first company, and then we had a non-compete, we couldn't do what we did. That was sales coaching company. We're like, what else could we teach people to do that we never did? It was like, let's create a system to help people find their uniqueness, and then create the system so that they can exploit it in the uniqueness of others. And then let's create the tools and the processes and the checklists and the templates so that they can actually turn whatever their passion is, whatever that uniqueness is, and turn it into a scalable money-making enterprise. But more importantly, Brand Builders Group was never started to be a profit maximization machine. We were started to make it to be an impact maximization machine. And people need to scale, not because they need to scale their income, but because they should scale their impact. Whatever that looks like is different for each person, but we want to help people make a bigger impact. And bigger impact happens in two ways. It does happen by quantity, but it also happens by depth. We tell people a lot, don't be so focused on the width of your reach that you forget about the depth of your impact. And you can change a lot of lives in a little bit, and that adds up to a lot. You also can adopt a child, and you tell me who made the greater impact in the world, the person with millions of podcast downloads, or the person who adopted one child who would have maybe lived in a situation that would not have been awesome. They're both good. They're both powerful, and they're not mutually exclusive. But you can make a huge impact in the world by affecting a few people in a deep way. In fact, that's the fastest path to cash, is to affect a few people in a very deep way. That's the fastest path to make a lot of money. Or you can affect a lot of people in a little way. And, each strategy is different for each person. And that's why we do, by the way, we do the first call for free with everyone, Celine. In fact, if anyone's listening and says, I want to talk about this, I feel a calling. If you go to freebrandcall.com/Celine, okay, your name, CELINNE. If you go to freebrandcall.com/Celine, we'll do the first call with you for free. And we just want to hear your story. And then we'll show you what our sort of 4-phase process is that we do with everyone. We'll show you the whole secret. Like we'll tell you the whole big picture. And then some people we can help officially as clients, and some we can't. But this is what it's about, is going, how do you find the thing that you were created to do? So for us, that is a very long answer to going, if someone is struggling with obscurity and they feel a calling on their heart to help other people, we are very well positioned to help that one type of person. That is our person, the mission-driven messenger. And we believe, Celine, that the calling that you feel on your heart to make a difference in the world is actually the result of a signal that is being sent out from the people who are looking for you. And our job is to facilitate that transference, is to go, look, you're actually feeling in a very metaphysical way, in a very, you can measure brain waves, right? In a very metaphysical way, the prompting that you sense is the result of somebody out there right now who needs you. And there's someone out there right now who is searching for answers and begging and pleading, and quite possibly even on their hands and knees praying for answers to problems that like the back of your hand. Why? Because you've walked down the path, you've already solved them. And that's what we live for, is to see our clients connect with those people. And a lot of great things come for them personally in the process, but that's what it's about.
Thank you so much. There's a few things I just love about this answer that you share with us. The first is just the level of embodiment that is present in what you're sharing with us. And I talk a lot about energy in this podcast, and I'm really about like frequency. Like energy doesn't lie. It just doesn't lie. And so what I think is potent about your answer is not just the words that you have spoken, but the embodiment of the way that you're speaking them, that I can just feel like it's like a transmission going floop, like right into the hearts of those who need to hear it right now. So first of all, thank you so much for the work that you and AJ have done on yourselves to be able to be in that space of, number one, acknowledging, like being of service, like your dedication to yourself, your dedication to God, your dedication to service, like all of that is such a gift to the world. So I just want to like acknowledge that because that's super present and in my face right now. So I want to speak into it. And the second thing that I also want to really just acknowledge you for is, we didn't directly talk about this in today's episode, but if anyone is wondering, like, oh, what do I need to do in order to have an 8-figure company? Like, how does he make so much money? Or like, how is it possible? 5 years? Oh my gosh. I hope like the things we didn't say, but hopefully have been transmitted, in between the lines is that this level of I am committed to solving a big problem for a specific group of people. And I'm laser focused and I developed the frameworks and I've created this massive amount of value for people to solve a problem that's really big. And when they solve the problem, the impact of solving that problem is really big as well. Like of all, I coach a lot of highly successful people. I'm absolutely like obsessed with getting in the brains of people who think like you. And I love watching like the machinery behind, because to me, it's totally obvious, but I'll just spell it out for anyone who's like, wait, I don't get it. It's like you are solving a really important problem for people who are solving really important problems. And that has not only an energy exchange on a metaphysical level, but it's got like a market value, like literally in the market, right? Like it's like Tony Robbins talks about this all the time. Like, you want to make more money, like create more value. And I think like, what you're sharing with us is really the testament. So when you're saying I grew 5 years, to a $10 million company, it's like, yeah, duh, like look at what you've done. And so to me, it totally makes sense. The story completely checks out. And not only that, it's super inspiring. And I hope it's inspiring to me. And I hope it's inspiring to anyone who's listening that there is a pathway, like what Rory is displaying, embodying. And, the reason why I so cared about having him on the show is because he's displaying and embodying what it looks like to create massive amounts of wealth in integrity and in service. And so I think that's so cool for you to be that example, because there's many, many ways to make lots and lots of money. And I'm personally not interested in any way but this, the impact, the service, and knowing that I can go to bed at night, knowing that I have supported people and I've done right by myself. I've done right by God. I've done right by my family. I've done right by others. Like, and that is just, there's nothing can buy that feeling of, like you're saying, deep fulfillment, because you are in service and that's who you're choosing to be. So that is just so freaking cool. And lastly, to wrap up today's episode, which was just so full of value, and I hope anyone who's listening, you might need to listen to this more than once, to be honest. But if we are to just wrap, because we've covered a lot of things, like a lot of big bombs were dropped in this episode. So if we're just to wrap everything in a bow and give anyone who's listening that's like, whoa, that was so much value, a clear pathway as to what they can walk away from this episode to, either journaling prompts or like, this is the action that you need to take. Step one, we're very clear on, which is get on a call with Rory's team. It's completely free. They're going to support you. So step one is do that in the link that Rory said, which is also in the show notes.
freebrandcall.com/Celine.
Perfect.
Freebrandcall.com/Celine.
Yes.
Yep.
And if you were to like, okay, someone's listening, it's like, okay, I want to leave you with this. Here's what you can, get on the call and then, walk away, and here's what I want to leave you with. What would that be, Rory?
I love it. So first, start with who. Start with who. Who are you most qualified to serve? You're most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. So the journal prompts that I would give you would be, what challenges have you conquered? What obstacles have you overcome? What setbacks have you survived? What tragedies have you triumphed over? Whatever the intersection is to those, that's who you're most powerfully positioned to serve. It might have to do something with your academic background or your work experience, but those are not the most important things. I don't care what you've studied. I care what you've walked through. So I would start with who. The second part of building a person, the second step, and these are the steps in our. And I mentioned we have 14 different experiences. The first one is called finding your brand DNA, and there are all these steps we go through. So the next thing is answering the question, what problem do you solve in one word? And people struggle so much to be able to answer that. And it has to be a problem. It can't be confidence or something. Like, confidence is not a problem. Self-esteem, like low self-esteem, is an issue. Procrastination is a problem. Action is not a problem, but procrastination is. So be able to answer in one word, what problem do you solve? Because you look at Brene Brown, she dedicated her life to solving shame. Mel Robbins solves anxiety. Her whole story is all about overcoming anxiety. Tony Robbins has dedicated his life to ridding people of pain. Dave Ramsey has built a multi-9-figure business by teaching the world to get out of debt. Like, we helped Lewis Howes build his whole personal around helping people get past self-doubt, right? To create greatness. And, my personal brand in our first company was overcoming procrastination. Today, Brand Builders Group does one thing: help people overcome obscurity. What problem do you solve in one word? If you remember, diluted focus creates diluted results. So you got to figure that out. And these are the things we get somebody clear on if they do spend, 2 days with us. It's what problem do you solve in one word? How do you solve that problem in one sentence? What's the one revenue stream that matters above all others? The one revenue stream that you're going to focus on. We call it your primary business model. What problem do you solve? How do you solve that problem? Oh, and then who do you solve that problem for in one phrase? Your avatar. So if you can get clear on those 4 things, everything else is going to start falling into place. If you're not clear on any of those 4 things, I don't care what hack you use online or how you edit your YouTube thumbnails or what tool you use to build your website, it's not going to break through the wall. It is not, until you get clear on those 4 things. So those would be the 4 prompts that I would say, Celine. And yeah, definitely you can request a free call. Last thing I'll leave everybody with is, we believe in hard work. We love making money just because we think we don't really care about making money, but we do believe that money is a derivative of making impact. That it's not a measure of how important you are. It's a measure of the value you've created in the world in many ways. And so, but what I'll say is there's a real strong trend going right now that I'm really happy about. And I think it is realizing that peace is the new profit. Peace is the new profit. You need to have some money to have peace, but you don't need to have all the money in the world. You need to make an impact on the lives of others to have peace, but you don't have to have the most followers. You have peace by going, my life has value because of how it's being used in the context of other people. My skills, my talents, my experiences, my heartaches are laid down at the table to be useful for those around me. And that creates real peace. It's the interconnectedness that we all have as the human experience. And, should you choose to believe it, I certainly do. It's the divine connection of our life to go, we're all going to be gone we're going to turn to dust, right? From dust you came and from dust we will return. And so while we're here, it's like, how can I make other people's lives better? It's the only thing that has like real deep satisfaction. So, stay focused on that. Don't worry about comparing yourselves to others. Peace is the real profit.
Gosh, I love that. That is the perfect ending to today's episode. Thank you so much. That was just incredibly value packed. And again, guys, get on the call, because you can see this is just fast. And this was just so valuable already. So thank you so much for coming today. And for those of you listening, whatever you loved about today's episode, I encourage you to take a screenshot and tag me, tag Rory. His information is going to be in the show notes, and let us know what you loved about today. Book that call. It is going to be so worth your time, as you are hopefully seeing just from this, podcast episode. And Rory, thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm so grateful to have you up today.
Thank you, Celine. It's my pleasure. It's my honor, and I wish you and your whole soul family all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, beautiful humans, for tuning in to today's episode of It's Not What You Think. If you loved what you received today, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, as it helps us reach even more amazing listeners like you. If we aren't already connected on social media, come receive even more tips and inspiration by following me on Instagram at Celine DaCosta, or visiting my website at CelineDaCosta.com. After listening to this episode, I invite you to take a few moments to reflect. What stood out to you? What were your key takeaways or breakthroughs? And if there was one action step you could take from this, what would it be? Thank you again for joining me on this journey. I'm sending you so much love, and I can't wait to connect in the next episode. Until then, keep sharing your unique gifts and living out your most magical life.